Yep.
Welcome back to another episode of Networking with Nick. I am excited today, as today is Trades Day. This is the first day I've had a tradesman on the show. I'd like to welcome Joe Frye of J. Frye Enterprises. What's up, brother?
Man, not much. How you doing? Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. I'm having a great time. It's a beautiful day out today in Wichita, and I'm just so excited. You know, you said you're going to wear the flannel today, and I was like, I have to match energy.
Absolutely.
There's no way I couldn't.
You look like you're ready to go to work with me after the podcast.
Just about. I mean, I do have some experience in the trade. I worked for a hazmat company for quite a while, Eagle Environmental. So I was an environmentalist. Go out, do literally the worst thing possible. Just any chemical spills, things of that nature. And then I got into ropes rescue and confined space rescue. So like I was around a lot of tradesfolk, welders out at like Hutchinson and stuff like that. I generally enjoy them. They are a very usually down-to-earth people. Some of them are kind of stuck up.
Sure.
But a lot of the time, like they're gonna bust your balls, make fun of you a little bit, but it's usually out of like some sort of endearment. Like they're just trying to like get to know you, and I love that atmosphere.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. It's something that's, you know, we've all gone through the learning curve in the trades. You know, the last few years with younger guys coming in and not understanding that. So it's cool that you have a good understanding of that.
Well, I think being 33, I think I am at a weird spot at an age where like we did that. That was us growing up in the 90s because we were busting each other's balls, just talking as much stuff, making fun of your mama jokes,
Right.
And it wasn't to be mean. It was just out of joking around, having fun. And I think a lot of kids have just gotten soft because of the technology. And I get it. It's not their fault, but it does need to be fixed. You're 100% correct. These 18-year-olds, they're very soft when it comes into, and I can't imagine some 18-year-old kid fresh out of high school coming to work, I don't know, we'll say framing.
Yeah.
Dude, you're about to get whooped.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're going to have a hard day. Physically, you're going to have a hard day mentally. And I still, I bring guys in and I give them a rough time. Not quite like we did back in the day, not quite like what happened to me.
Yeah.
But my favorite one is looking at them at the end of a day, about a weekend, and, hey, man, anybody tell you what a great job you're doing today? And they, I said, well, maybe you should think about that.
Good.
And walk away.
That's so funny.
Had a couple people, really get upset. I'm like, hey, man, it's just a joke. I'm just busting your balls. You're doing fine.
Dude,
just keep coming.
Just show up, do the work, and you'll learn over time. That's all trades are. So give me a rundown of what the enterprise does.
The enterprise is, right now we are pretty much residential HVAC.
Okay.
Trying to move into some commercial. That is my background. I was a union sheet metal worker for Local 29 here in Wichita for about 13 years.
Wow, union man.
Yes, absolutely. And I love the union.
Interesting.
Don't get me wrong.
We're going to talk about that.
Yeah. So I went through all that, and then COVID happened, and a lot of the bigger projects that union gets in Kansas kind of went away. Spent a long-term laid off and kind of started moonlighting with somebody, learning how to do the other parts of HVAC other than just ductwork.
Yeah.
So did that for a little while, and I don't want to sound arrogant, but I am one of the people that can take a test.
A little closer for me.
Yep. I can take a test very well.
Okay.
And
test
so
taking.
I went out and I studied, and I had the years in the field, and I was able to take my mechanical master's, which meant I could open a company and bid work and be licensed to do all the work myself.
So you are a master's then?
Yes.
In HVAC, correct?
Yes, it's actually called a master's in mechanical.
In mechanical. Okay, so what does it take to learn that and then pass that test? Is there, because you just said that you didn't go down like the normal path. Like you'd already had experience and knowledge, so you kind of studied for the test and just took it, right?
Right.
So do other people usually go find training? Are they looking for a mentor? How is that path normally taken?
So normally that path is taken, whether you're union or non. You go through some sort of schooling, whether it's an apprenticeship or go through school, and then you start as kind of an apprentice in the non-union sector, and you have to have a certain number of years to get your journeyman's.
Okay.
And then you have to have another year or two to be qualified to get your master's. And, you study, most of the test is basically learning all the code books. It's learning how to navigate them. When they ask you a question in the test, it's in the code book. And you have to know how to navigate and find the different parts of the code book, what pertains to what, and search through and find it.
Did you read these books? Like, were you just reading them just straight across to learn and memorize the code?
No. So what I actually did was I came up with lists of questions. There's certain allowances you can't have say, flew within so many feet of a window, so many feet of a door, so many feet of a walkway. And as I would come up to those questions in day-to-day life, in my trade, I would actually write that question down and go through and make sure I knew how to navigate the book and find the answer properly.
There you go.
Basically, the way that they designed the masters to be, for you to be able to achieve the masters, was you need to be competent finding the answers in the book and, finding whatever you needed out of those books so that you did everything up to a building code so people don't get hurt.
So more or less like not making you memorize everything, but just making sure that you are competent enough to, hey, I don't know this by heart. I know how to find it and do it correctly.
Absolutely.
Interesting. So how many years does that usually take to learn? I mean, you said how long does it take from apprentice to journeymanship?
So I believe it's 3 years. So in the mechanical field, I actually had a journeyman's in sheet metal before I had my master's in mechanical.
Okay.
That's not the norm. Most people get their journeyman's in mechanical. They work on the units themselves. That wasn't the job I came from. I would set these big units and run ductwork off of them, and most of these guys would go in and repair the units when they malfunction. They learned the inner workings. I didn't know until I started helping that guy in the evenings anything about the inner workings of the unit. Wow. Nothing. The day I established my LLC, I didn't know how to read a multimeter, a voltage meter, to be able to read voltage, which is a major portion of repair.
Absolutely.
Didn't even know how to use it.
All right, so why make that transition? Why start the LLC when you didn't have that knowledge?
Because starting a strictly sheet metal company, the overhead would be just fantastic. Like, 100, 150,000 to start a production sheet metal shop. I mean, it'd be lucrative, but I don't know enough about business to go get that kind of money. I've got to start developing a smaller system, a day-to-day system, things that don't take you months to get paid. You get paid every day so that you can buy the next tool and the next tool and the next tool so that you can pay your bills.
Yeah.
Because most things in commercial, the big duct jobs, those are all net 30. They take you 30 days to get done and 30 to 60 days to get paid, and you're already out of pocket for thousands of dollars worth of material.
Man. Oh, so making that switch and learning all the how long has the LLC been open?
What is today, the 6th?
Yes.
So next week it'll be 3 years.
3 years?
3 years legally open. It took us a little while to get actually doing business.
Yeah. So after COVID.
Yes.
How there had to have been some struggles through the COVID portion of things.
So the COVID portion of things is what got me laid off. That's where all of the work went. And I spent a little time remodeling my house, remodeled my grandparents' old house. And then it was like, man, I don't see the bills coming in. I don't know what to do here. I've got to either go work non-union, whatever, that's fine, and just continue to eat the same medicine I've been eating, or I can go out and give this a shot. And I knew what guys were charging for change outs and stuff. And I thought, well, 4 of those a month and I double what I made as a union employee.
Damn.
I mean, double. Problem is you don't get 4 of those a month without learning how to repair and having a customer base. You don't just make that profit right out of the gate. There's expensive tools that have to be purchased. You have to establish a rolling income because, over the summer I'd triple it. But my first fall open, between September and October, I made $1,000 between the 2 months.
I know how that feels.
Yeah.
I 100% know. I mean, so we kind of have the same story a little bit. In 2020, during COVID, I was a machinist for about 5 or 6 years. I was going to school for engineering design. I was learning CATIA and Inventor. I was doing parts design. I wanted to get into wire structure for shipbuilding, for the hulls and stuff. They use a lot of wireframe. I thought that was really cool. So we're doing all this. I got laid off. I had some money at the time, a little bit of saved up. I was making good money as a machinist. And honestly, I wanted to get back into sales, and I didn't want to be in the trade no more. So I got a sales interview for a window cleaning company. This goes on for about a week, contact with the GM and the owner. I didn't end up getting the job, but they ghosted me after I followed up with them day after day after day. So I had some money saved up, and I asked a dumb question. How hard is it to clean windows?
Right.
And I looked up on YouTube and found a guy named Steve the Window Cleaner. And I went down a rabbit hole. And I mean a rabbit hole to like 4 o'clock in the morning, learning how to bid residential, bid commercial, how to clean them correctly, how to fan correctly, how to do pull work correctly, how what types of rubber works better on the types of glass, different styles of fanning and stuff like that. Like the whole night, like he taught you everything. So I soaked it all up, and I went to Home Depot the next day and got a $10 squeegee, $10 T-bar, went back home, and just practiced on my sliding glass door window. It's like, all right, I have pandemic money coming in soon. I got my regular unemployment coming in on Friday, and I have some money saved up. So I said, screw it. I know how to fake it till you make it. I went and bought like $500-$600 worth of pro gear. And I just started doing friends' houses for free to figure it out. My son's mother's house for free to figure it out. And then I just went and door knocked businesses with the belt on,
Yeah.
And my whole intent on that was because the people who had like kind of strung me along and ghosted me, all I wanted to do was steal like 3 or 4 of their clients. That was my intentions. So I started my first business in COVID on being mad at somebody because they ghosted me.
Right.
And like just trying to like mad. So, I mean, yeah, with the layoff, I mean, I was kind of forced into something. You know what I mean? Like, because it was like I was hanging around doing whatever I wanted. Started looking for work when I knew the money was starting to get lower. You know, like I'm not dumb, but it came down to like making the decision to do something different. Like you said, you could keep doing the same thing, drink that same Kool-Aid that you have been for years, or jump into something a little bit different. I'm assuming for you, it was probably just as scary as it was for me.
Oh, absolutely. It took, one of my brothers calls it the gift of desperation.
Man.
You know, I was just desperate to do something bigger with myself.
Dude, that's big. Desperation and hunger will make you make interesting decisions.
Yeah. Yeah. Life-altering decisions. They come quicker when you do that.
Has it gotten easier though, making those decisions? I feel like it has. I'm 3.5 years into the journey now, you know, from the window cleaning company now to the podcast. It's gotten so much easier.
It has, but the decisions have scaled. They've definitely scaled bigger. So the decisions that I was making very tentatively back then are every day now.
Right.
It's now I'm on to bigger decisions. You know, I just hired an admin, and I just hired a third employee, and so that doubled my staff.
Right. Doubled a little bit more of your outgoing pay as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And doing that at the slow time of the year is kind of like starting a business during COVID.
Yeah, that's super smart. So expand on that a little bit. You know, you're making these bigger decisions. What type of scale have you seen since that day one? You're making those harder decisions to those. Like, what does that look like now?
So, it's just the dollar amount gets bigger. The dollar amount, the risk's not so much bigger. Pardon me. So where before it was like, $1,000, I got to come out of pocket to buy this equipment to put it in this person's house. Now I can go do that, but it's twice as much, or 3 customers or 4 customers. And so the swing in the account is different. Yeah, I can go make money just up here, but it's such a normal pedestrian amount of money that it would have been huge back a couple years ago. And now it's like, okay, well, that got the electric bill paid and this person paid. Now I need to go do that 2 or 3 more times this week. Of course, we're having this podcast. This is the slowest part of my year.
Right now.
Nothing is breaking. It's not that cold.
It isn't. It's a beautiful day out today.
Not that warm, and it's been that way for a couple weeks. So none of this equipment is getting challenged.
Interesting.
The only thing I would have is, my seasonal services, my residual income, stuff like that. And I have just got into building that because I didn't want to have the seasonal services, the contracts, all that until I was 100% sure that I could provide the necessary service to somebody who's trusting me for their comfort. So I didn't start that last year. I've spent most of my career subcontracting for other companies so far. But now trying to build my own customer base because I feel like I have the right pieces in place to provide a phenomenal service.
Man, that's amazing. That's you. I love to hear those stories. That's why I like doing this. I get to hear from so many more people who have different upbringings, different backgrounds, different thoughts, different ways to solve problems. And it's interesting because there's always that saying that like there's more than one way to skin a cat. And it's really true. It really there's 10 different ways to count to 10. and you all end up getting to 10. And I love to hear the story, and I try to take something from it every time. And I think it is so beneficial to just be vulnerable about things like that. Like, I remember my first days with the window cleaning company, dude. Like, there was a point in time where I was like 4 or 5 months behind on rent. I was donating plasma twice a week to pay the bills and feed the kid, put gas in the truck to get to the networking meetings or the next bid. Like, it was rough.
Yeah.
And like, a lot of people just don't know that happens when you're trying to start a business.
Right.
So do you remember some of the darker times when you first started?
Absolutely. And I'd love to share about
Please,
that.
I would love to hear it.
I think people who are thinking about doing it, they need to hear it, because once you start, you're going to have a great start, and there's going to come that moment that it's not going okay, and things, you're about to quit and go get a job. And so I have a friend of mine who is a very successful business owner, owns a few businesses, and he came from dirt poor, the typical story. And so I know where he came from, and I know where he is now, but I don't necessarily know every day of his life.
Right.
And when I started the business, he said, Joe, just know that there was a day about, 5 months into me starting my first business, and I'm sitting out in my garage, and this is a strong man. This is not a very sensitive person.
Right. This is somebody who's got some grit.
Yeah. Yeah. And he says he's sitting out in his garage, and he's in the dark, the lights are off, and he's just chain smoking and staring off into the darkness, and tears rolling down his eyes because he doesn't know how he's going to pay his family's rent. He doesn't know.
You know what I mean? That's like, I know how that feels. That's fucking goosebumps. I've been there.
Absolutely. Me too. And I can tell you, I would not have made it past that if I hadn't heard about him. If he hadn't been willing to share that experience, I would have thought, well, I'm just failing. I'm not making it. And like I said, that first fall was horrific. I had a couple jobs come and bail me out, just came at the right time.
Yeah.
And I don't force anything on anybody. I'm a man of faith. And, it was like, okay, thank you. Okay.
I'm going to chalk this one up to you. I'm going to appreciate this one.
Yeah, no doubt. And during that time, I'm asking my wife, like, hey, should I get a part-time job, bouncing or night security or something that I can do on the evenings and weekends so I can continue to do this? And she said, no. This requires all of your focus. At the time, she's carrying every one of the bills, and she doesn't make a ton of money, so she's covering everything. And I was like, are you sure? And she said, for right now, I can handle this. I need you to go out and get it going.
Women, take notes.
Oh, no. Here's what you don't get to know. I didn't get to know for a couple of years, and it's because she is such a wonderful partner. I didn't know that after we had that conversation, she left, she went away, walked away, whatever, went to the bedroom, took her shower, whatever she was going to do, and bawled. So scared, so stressed out, but she believed in me enough.
Dude, that's so big.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge. I mean, if you're going to start a business, please have a good partner. And I don't mean a business partner. I mean a spouse, because she was so supportive that my goal today is to make this happen to a point that I can turn around and invest back into her dreams.
Right. There it is.
Because she is my new administrative assistant. She quit her job now. I'm able to pay her a little bit more. And she's been investing, going all in on my dreams. And here in about 5 or 10 years, I want her to be able to stop and go over and whatever it is that she dreams of doing day in and day out. That's what I want her to be able to do. She's made that kind of investment in me that I owe her that. Maybe I do or don't. I want her to have that.
No, I think that's a good word. Like, you feel like you owe that. So, you want to own that you owe her that. And I think, dude, having a partner like that is incredible. I mean, I haven't had one. It's been me. And, me and my son, I have a 9-year-old. So when I started all of this, like an idiot, I was very lucky that his mom and I have a very good relationship.
Right.
So we're not together, anything like that. She's moved on, I've moved on, but we co-parent very well. When I kind of made this leap, she was like, what are you doing? All right, I'll give you a chance. Like, you can clean my windows, go ahead. Like, she wasn't talking shit though. She didn't put me down. She didn't tell me not to do it. None of that. Fast forward 3.5 years later, I've had one relationship that didn't go well for the sheer fact that it's just different paths. She didn't understand. It didn't make sense to her.
Sure.
It wasn't the same thing. And, fast forward, with my son's mother, And now it's like she's never shot me down about it. She's never tried to like talk down about me and like supporting the child, stuff like that. Because anytime I've ever had it when I was up, I would always make sure that she had been appreciated for the stuff that she was doing. And now it was so hard, like thinking about not knowing where the next meal is going to come when you have an 8-year-old to feed.
Yeah.
That shit's terrifying. So what was it? So how many kids did you guys have at the time?
3 daughters.
3 mouths to feed, a total of 5 mouths to feed, you struggling, making, fucking pushing it, and her covering it with limited funds.
Very limited. Very limited. And, I do want to point out to you, just so you remember this, you do have a partner. He's just a little shorter than everybody else. And he believes in you like that.
Yeah.
You have that. It may not be in the form of a spouse, but you do have a partner that believes in you like that, and he believes you can do everything.
Quit it.
Well,
damn it.
That's your why. That's why you
right,
get up.
Exactly. So, and one of the cool things about this is I've got to expose him to this. Me and him share a lot of shortcomings when it comes to education. Dyslexic.
Okay.
Pretty sure he's dyslexic as all hell too. Very smart, very sociable. Figures out way around things, just like I've done. So what I've done, like through the networking, you and I met through networking at BNI. When I was a part of the chapter here in Wichita, I brought him to multiple meetings. So he got to see us network. He got to see us present. And then I brought him to my 10-minute presentation to see that. And I've always wanted to bring him to all of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And as he grows, you can bring him in where you're struggling. You can show him where you're struggling so that he knows that it happens.
Last night, so he wants to be a YouTuber.
Okay.
For the love of God, all these kids want to be YouTubers. I get it. I'm on YouTube. I cannot say that that's a bad path to walk.
Right.
What I will say is they don't know all the stuff that it takes to be a YouTuber. So I had a bunch of files open last night. I have my workstation is one big screen here and another big screen here. I have a whole lot of room to do a lot of stuff. I had editing open, email open, files for content open, and I'm dragging and I'm clipping and I'm doing the editing. He's like, what are you doing? I was like, this is what it takes to be a YouTuber, kid. How long have I been sitting here since we got back when I picked you up from school? He's like, you haven't moved. This is what it takes. This is what you have to do if you want to learn to be a YouTuber. And he was like, all right. So I was like, look, I want you to do something that you want to enjoy, but you need to understand, if you're going to be on the iPad watching YouTube your own self, watching Mr. Beast or whatever, instead of that, why don't you hit the search button, how to record a video for YouTube? I'm starting to teach him to ask questions versus just wanting to do stuff. Ask, how's it done? How'd you do that? And just getting those, I wasn't taught that as a kid. So I'm trying to install a lot of the stuff that I'm learning now into him currently, so he has a much better head start when he's, later in life. So you are right. I've never thought about it that way. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Man, so that hit me pretty good. I ain't gonna lie.
Well, I didn't mean to elicit all that.
No, you're good.
I felt those, I've felt those things. I've looked at the kids. I've gone in. My daughters are teenagers, so when it was a struggle, I'd walk up and I'd just look around and they'd be sleeping or whatever. I'd check in on them. And, have you seen that? It's a little short, maybe a YouTuber thing on Facebook, and it's the guy driving home, and this is why I can't quit. She never fails me, blah, blah, blah. And his voice starts to break. He's not videoing himself. He's just videoing as he drives.
Right.
And he pulls up, and his daughter pokes her head out as he pulls in the garage. And, it's still, I can't barely talk about it without, my voice changing, because
man.
That's all that matters.
Prior to Riker being born, I was doing nothing. I lived in a place called the Madhouse off of 21st and Broadway, owned by a firefighter whose whole intent when he bought the house was I would have a big enough house for all my friends to live in. So I found it on Craigslist of all places, and I was looking for a place. My dad still lived here. It's when we first had moved to Kansas, and I had broken up with a girl, the first girlfriend I had here, and her and I were staying together, and I wanted my own place. I found a room to rent in this place called the Madhouse, and it was 7, 8 of us, just sex, drugs, rock and roll, baby. Just having fun, man, just doing whatever. 2 of us were pizza delivery drivers at the time, so we always had cash tips on us. we called Heroes Downtown Church.
Nice.
We're going there every Sunday, Saturday, like just to pay homage, baby.
Hell yeah.
You know what I mean? So like I was doing nothing. And then the kid was born. I met his mom there, funny enough. And like I remember the first time, like it all hit me throughout like her being pregnant. But it didn't really hit me until the first time I got to hold him. I remember that moment. I was like, you can't keep doing the same shit no more, dude. You have to make a choice.
Right.
And I think that was the day that put me on the path that I'm on currently, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing the kind of drive you can get out of just having children, you know, and I know guys talk about they have their kids, they have their wife, they have the house payment, and that kind of keeps them in their lane, you know, and it did that for me for a lot of years, but I totally get it. I am actually, my daughters I met, they were 4, 2, and 1 when I met them. My wife had just got out of a divorce about a year before.
Right.
And they're tiny. I mean, they're small statured people.
Yeah.
In general, and I'm not. And
you're a big man.
A little bit. And I met them at the zoo, and you know, she's got 3 little girls. One of them's in her arm, and so she was used to holding one's hand, and then the other one's holding the other one's hand. And I met them there, and she said, "Okay, girls, we're gonna walk. Grab a hand." And my oldest daughter walked over and grabbed my hand. She didn't know me.
Damn.
Obviously not biological. She'd never met
Right.
me before, but took my hand, and it was huge. And I remember the first time because I have a ton of way younger siblings, so I've changed more than a couple diapers.
Yeah.
And the 2 older ones were out of diapers, but the youngest one wasn't. And she's like, "Hey, I'm sorry to ask you this. I know it's not your responsibility. Would you change the diaper?" "Oh, yeah, okay." And I changed the diaper. I get the tot squared away, get her on her way, and I'm holding this, messy diaper, and I start crying. Wow. Like my wife's not standing there. And, she comes around the corner, and I like start getting really busy, like trying to throw the diaper away.
Around.
Don't look at me, whatever. She's like, "Joe, what's going on? Was it like real nasty?" And I was like, no. She's like, "Well, what's wrong? Look at me." And I, there's just tears running down. I just realized I just changed my daughter's diaper for the first time.
Damn.
They're mine. I'm here.
That's amazing.
I'm in it. And, so yeah, I get it when you talk about holding your son for the first time. Mine happened in a little bit of an alternative fashion.
Yeah.
Yeah, those kids keep it going.
Man, and now, what do you want for them as, like you're learning business, you're learning networking. Like I want my son to definitely follow in the steps of like, I don't want him to be a 9-to-5er. I really don't. And I want him to find his own way. I'm curious, like, do you like try to teach them like your journey and some of the things that you're doing?
To an extent. So my 2 older daughters are extremely good artists.
Oh.
I believe my oldest daughter, she's looking to go and do the Kansas City Institute of Art.
Amazing.
And that's her goal. She's working towards that. We never had kids before, and I got like an associate's degree at a local community college. So going to like real college, I'm not real well versed on how that works. So we're trying to work towards that for her. And her grades were okay. They were pretty good. Good. She tries really hard.
Good.
And did okay. The second kid, she is so absolutely intelligent. Like she doesn't try in school and is on the National Honor Society.
Lucky.
Right. And she's this fantastic artist. So she's on course to go ahead and go become an architect. That was her decision. That's what she wants to do when she grows up because she could use her art. And it was a physical holding your hand way of making a living doing art.
Yeah.
So that was what she wants. My youngest one is the most like me. She has no direction, can either do great in her grades or struggle completely based on where her focuses are.
Exactly.
Wants to do literally every single activity in school and will do it for a while and then...
That's an entrepreneur.
Yes.
That kid is an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. So she's either going to be a millionaire or she's going to live in the gutter.
One of the two, and it's not going to be in between.
Probably both.
At some point in time, yeah.
Right. So, they all take interest. The 2 younger ones have both worked for me in the summers. The last one I was in, my middle daughter actually wired up 240 volt, 120 volt, the 24 volt to the thermostat, and her questions weren't technical. Her questions were, "Hey, how high do you hang a thermostat because she's,
Yeah,
this
yay
tall.
tall.
She's like, I think I'd put it a little lower.
Right? Exactly.
But she did all that and didn't have any questions. Like she had been trained to that point where she just did all of that work on electrical circuits. I'm not going to let a child work on something alive.
Right.
But she was able to wire all of that herself.
And properly.
Properly, absolutely, up to code, knew the codes, knew the things associated to what she was doing.
Yeah.
To that extent at 16, 17 years old. I think she was 16 at the time. Yeah.
And it's just exposure. That's all it is. It's just
Exactly.
them picking it up because they're malleable. God, like Riker, I can teach him anything, as like he just catches on to stuff. And, you get him early, you teach him that early, and man, that's so powerful. I do truly feel like there are a lot of kids nowadays, though, in the age range of anywhere from like, teenage, 13 to 18. They just don't know how to do fucking anything. They don't know how to fix anything. They don't know how to do anything.
No, they're at a total disadvantage. And it started with us. It started with you and I. I mean, I'm only 5 years older than you.
I feel disrespected for some reason. I don't know why, because you're so much bigger than I am, maybe? I don't know why. Because I get, when I shave my face, I'm baby face. I get carded all the time.
Really?
All the time. Unless I bring the mustache back. And then usually it's fine. But lately I've been shaving for the show. And like I got carded yesterday just getting some Zen. And I was like, bro.
Wow. See, I went in when I was 18 years old the morning I turned 18 and bought cigars for the guys I worked with.
Yeah.
And I didn't get carded.
Have you always had like kind of an older, like not an older, just a more, what is the word for that? Don't feel disrespected. Do you ever felt like you've always kind of had like an older projection to people? Like people have always thought that you have been older than you currently are.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
It's been consistent most of my life. There was a brief time in my early 20s where I was, living in the party houses and that kind of thing, where they didn't, I don't know what people thought because normal people weren't talking to me, But other than that, everybody's always just guessed me older. Always kind of got treated that way, got put in leadership positions that I'm like, I'm way too young for this. Why are they putting me in this position? And nobody questions it.
Interesting.
I don't get it.
You do have like a sense of authority to you, for sure. Like, you walk into a room, like people are definitely going to look, they're probably going to listen to you because you are big, you're booming voice. So you do have like a bit of authority to you for sure. So it makes sense.
Yeah. And I appreciate it. I mean, it's just, I can't take pride in that. Like I didn't do that. That's just the way it was.
Enjoy the talent, brother. Just enjoy the talent.
And that's it. I just have to be grateful for it. I don't have every talent in the world, but that's something that I was given that, I had to take complete advantage of and use my gifts.
Yeah. So, all right, give me the history of so you were in the union for how many years?
Like 12 or 13.
12 or 13. What were you doing prior to union?
Just a multitude of things. I had spent about a year taking inventory. Those people you walk into the store and they're typing on their leg with.
Oh,
TP.
really?
Yeah, I actually really loved that work. The hours were really horrid, like, because you're always coming in late at night after the store's closed, or, the conditions were kind of crappy, but I really enjoyed the work.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And it was just counting stock to put in orders for new stock and stuff.
Well, no, so just taking full physical inventory of things and financial inventory of things. We were an independent contractor, not working at a store. For this store, we'd go to all kinds of stores, anybody that would hire that service.
Yeah.
And take their inventory.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How the hell did you get into that?
I don't even remember. I think I knew somebody that worked there and I was looking for a job and it was more money than what I had made before.
Hey, I'll take it. Just
Right.
teach me whatever. All right, so then you do that for a while. Why did you get into the union?
I got into the union because I quit that job. I had a little falling out, had a moment, and I moved home. I'd actually, that job had moved me into the middle of Missouri, and I moved home. Had to take care of some things with the family, and I got just a job siding houses. I had framed houses in high school, so siding houses. I wasn't an expert, but I was competent.
You knew
enough.
something.
Sure. And I would look across the street, and this guy would get home at the same time as me, one of the neighbors that we were friendly with, which pretty much all of them we were friendly with, but he would get home with mud on his boots, and he called me over there one day and started talking to me. And when he started telling me what these union guys were making and that it was free school and it was all this, it sounded like bullshit. I was trying to figure out if this was some kind of scheme, some scam, because people in construction don't make that.
Right.
And, I kind of trusted the guy. I mean, I didn't know him real well, but it was like, okay, what do they need for money? I have to give them my credit card number. How does this work?
Right.
But I got on and I started going. And I remember that interview, because the interview to get into the apprenticeship, because it is the only interview I think I ever crushed.
Okay.
And, they said, well, we have a list of guys we choose from, or that have already applied. And so as we go down the list, you'll be, hopefully in a few weeks. Okay. And he said, do you have anything to say to me? And I said, well, yeah, I do. I said, I understand you have a list and you have a way of doing things. You probably ought to put me at the top of your list, because I need this. I'm going to be good at it, and I'm going to crush everybody else on that list. At the time, I didn't have a cell phone. I was kind of starting over a little bit, and I left there and went home. And by the time I got home, I had a phone call to return and get work the next day.
Let's go.
Yeah. So
now, do you think it was because of the assertiveness that you had put down? Because I know a lot of, that's kind of how the union works in trades, honestly. If you put your foot down when someone tells you something, people respect you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. I think, I looked like I had direction in life. I was 22. A lot of their applicants were like 18, 19.
Okay.
I had a couple more years, and I did have a construction background. I built houses in high school. So, those things combined, and he's saying, no, this is it. And then, in the interview, they're asking, well, do you have any questions for us? They ask the dumbest stuff.
Right.
Are you afraid of heights? No. Are you claustrophobic? No. Who answers those honestly if they were?
Right, exactly. But those are good questions to kind of ask, though, because you are up high and sometimes you in crawl spaces.
Right. And I do have a touch of claustrophobia, but I actually aggressively have gone after that and gone after those things until,
You're no longer afraid of it anymore.
I'm not. I can still get into some spots, but there's spots where everybody else is upset too.
Yeah, it's not going to be fun for anyone.
Sure. So I asked them the question. I said, I kind of like you and I talked before the podcast, how you were just pretty good at a lot of things. And I told them, I said, I'm pretty good at a lot of things. One of the guys has been doing it for 30 years. I said, are you still challenged? Do you still get challenged? Do you still enjoy this? Is there still moments where you feel like you can learn and grow? Because I'm not looking for a dead-end job. I'm looking for a career path. And I think I had the highest interview score for the year.
Wow, let's go.
So, it was just like God reached out and said, here's the answer sheet. Nice.
Take it when you can.
Absolutely.
All right, so when you get your first paycheck, do you still think it's a scam?
No, absolutely not. It was absolutely wonderful, and I really enjoyed the union. I can't say enough good things about the union. I wish that there was a way to be union in the light commercial residential sector in Kansas. It's really just not feasible, but having competent people to call upon when you have a little bit more work and having the built in, everybody has unemployment. I get that, but it's a little streamlined when you're a union. You get it right away. And just I worry so much about treating employees well now that it's like, man, I'd love to be union.
Right.
I'd love to be, but there's just no way. They're relegated to just like school jobs, government stuff, massive things. It's the only things they can compete at because of the low wages in Kansas.
Right. Now, being from Seattle greater area, Boeing's up there. And about every 5 or 6 years, they go on picket line to strike for their wages. And I get it. I'm curious, where was I going with this thought? I had an idea for this thought, and I can't remember. Okay. I think we just really witnessed one of the biggest union events probably in our lifetime, the auto union, and what they just got done doing, I think, last year. Did you watch that?
Not real closely.
Okay.
Not real closely. I try to stay away from too much news and stuff because I start to get wound up.
See, because I was going to ask, because I don't know, what is those, have you gone through, a strike / negotiation? And
I've
what
gone
is
through
that
the
like?
negotiation.
Interesting.
And we didn't vote to strike. I was, we're in a small local. At the time I left, I think we were at 250 members.
Oh, okay.
So very small local. And, I didn't like some of the things in the contract. I didn't find them acceptable. And so I did vote for the strike, but I was outvoted 4-1.
Oh, okay.
It was not even close.
You didn't win that one.
No, not even a little bit. But I think certain things are important because, you look around at these employers all around the country, especially huge businesses. I won't name any massive, largest retailer in the world. And you and me are paying what they're not paying for their employees. We are paying it back in taxes. And I think that is one of the biggest atrocities, that a person can't go get a job. I don't care what the skill level is. They put in their time, they do their hours, and it's necessary. They should be able to at least live life without me paying the dividend or you paying the end of it while the billionaires cash the check on it.
There are some loopholes. How do you think you fix those?
I really don't know, because the government, we don't want the government to come in and say, no, you're gonna do this, that, and the other.
Right.
We don't want that. I think, I think tariffing the hell out of everything imported.
Interesting. That's one way to do it.
You're about my age. Do you remember talking about imported stuff when we were a kid?
No.
Yeah. If it was imported, it was fancy.
Mm-hmm.
It was imported wine, imported couch, imported car. And I don't mean it was some cracker box that you're going to drive for 50,000 miles and throw it away. If it was imported, it was nice, and that's kind of what it needs to go back to. If you want something imported, it needs to be something nice, not just because you got it for cheaper.
Yes.
I think we could tariff that to the point that we could at least mitigate it and start building things in the United States again.
We are doing that. Absolutely. There's a massive push towards manufacturing, which is interesting because I don't know where all that workforce is going to go. Because we were talking about this on the phone, and I wanted to talk about it a little bit here, is because, you see a lot of young kids coming in. They see different opportunities because they have different opportunities compared to when we were younger. Social media has definitely changed the game. Internet itself has absolutely changed the game when it comes to options. We see, have you seen younger generation, how do I want to ask this? What has it been like when you get interviews with the younger generation, and have you brought them on to test them out?
I have. Actually, my very first hand that I hired full time, he's 21 years old. I think he was 20 at the time. He's been with me almost a year now. And honestly, my strategy, if I want a young person, is I look outside of the metro area.
That's smart.
I call shop class teachers.
There it is.
In small towns 20, 30 miles outside of town, because those kids grow up. And it's not because the kids are growing up wrong or better or worse. It started with our generation.
Mm-hmm.
I remember being a helper, brand new in the trade, and being asked, can you read a tape measure? Of course I can read a damn tape measure. But why were they asking? Because they had a ton of guys that couldn't read a damn tape measure.
Yeah.
Our parents' generation, if something broke, you got into the book, you got into the manual, it explained how to fix it, you fixed it. That was way more common than calling the repairman all the time. It was way more common than just go buy a new one, because the repair parts were fairly inexpensive, but buying a new one was more expensive. We live in a throwaway society now, and these kids aren't learning and being exposed to this is how you work on things.
Yeah.
If you had to have your oil changed as a teenage male.
You just did it.
Right. If you had to have it done by somebody else, you were not very well thought of.
That you made fun of, and I think it is just the environment in which we grow up, and that's all it is.
Right.
Those out in the rural areas, there's more chores to be done.
Absolutely.
That's all it is, really. And you come down to the city, and it's a different atmosphere. I don't think there's any wrong or right way, but we do need to coexist. We need one another. Like, we need you rural people, and you need us.
Right.
It's a symbiotic relationship, and I think it's an amazing relationship. Moving from Seattle, literally city interlocked for 200 miles north to south up and down the I-5 corridor, versus here. You know what I mean? Where if you want to leave the city, you literally just pick a direction.
Right.
Every highway in the city leaves it. And, you know, you get out there and it's different. You need to experience. And I tell a lot of friends back home, hey, man, honestly, like they're very liberal and I love them to death. Go live in the Midwest for a year. Get out of the West Coast for a year. I'm not telling you to leave forever. Just come and live somewhere else for a year and a half. See what it's like.
Right.
And you'll get such a big perception shift. I did. I absolutely did. I mean, growing up in Seattle, it was all blue, baby. And, you know, I've got friends here who are massive Trump fans, Trump supporters, conservative, who are some of the most genuine, great people you'll ever meet. It has nothing to do. It's just, we have to coexist. That's
Right.
it.
Right. You know, there is people that I can't relate to at all, but I have friends that vote on either side.
Yeah.
And when I talk to them, it's so much not what the news portrays.
Mm-hmm.
What they're looking for is the same end goal. Their method of getting there, what they think is going to get them there, is just different.
Yeah.
You know, and that's cool. You know, I think that the full-on media, not the social media, the full-on media is the biggest problem around because they're supposed to be credible. You know,
They're just not no more.
No, they're selling the highest selling story. They're selling off to the highest bidder. They're more bought than our politicians.
And the worst part, I think about it is their view count, we'll say, compared to an online network, an online news show that's being produced, say YouTube. Their views are just so much more limited versus the exposure that they can receive. Say some independent news anchors who are doing their own show can reach millions, millions, and millions because everyone's getting away from TV.
Right.
You know, like, and that's kind of their demographic who watches mainstream. And it's just a matter of time.
Right. Right. And I mean, as a business owner, no, I'm not going to tell you what I voted for the candidate of my choosing.
The damn right.
You know, and I'll walk up to somebody. I mean, obviously we're in another election year and we don't know who it's going to be. So the last election, I'd walk up to somebody's house and see a Trump sticker. I'd be like, man, thank God you're a Trump supporter. If it was Biden, I'd charge you double. But I'd walk up to the person with the Biden sticker on the back and be like, oh, thank God you're not one of them Trump guys. I'd have charged you double.
Yeah, you hit them both at the same thing. You get
Because I'm a business owner. And
damn right.
What really matters to me is not what happens 2,000 miles away in a city that's just the most corrupt city in the country.
If you claim to be a business owner and you want to blame the person who's in the fucking White House for your failures or not doing well, stop.
Absolutely.
Look, obviously there's a little bit of macro stuff that happens in decision making. But because of who's in the White House does not dictate or determine your goddamn success.
Right.
Doesn't work that way.
Shut up and grind.
Get to work.
Grind. Go to work. You want more? You want more? Put in more.
That's it.
If you don't know how, quit being an arrogant prick and ask.
Mm-hmm.
That was the biggest. I was actually listening to a podcast and I was on the fence about starting a business. And I listened to this certain podcast and the guy was talking and he was saying how, you know, when you start a business, people are afraid to start a business because they don't know how to run a business. They don't know everything that they think they need to know. Be humble. Ask.
Yes. Ask
Be humble and ask. It's your ego that's stopping you. It's your ego. And when I heard that, I thought all those years, I don't need to be the boss. I just don't have that big of an ego. I'm being humble by just staying in my place and staying in my lane. No, I was terrified of having to ask the question and let somebody know I wasn't all knowing.
Yeah.
There's some weird thing in my brain that's telling me that, you know, so I had to check my ego. I have 5 or 6 AC contractors that I call when I can't figure something out.
They probably know the answer, don't they?
Often. And you know what?
They'll tell you.
The 5 or 6 people call me back on the stuff that I know.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Hey, Joe, this is your thing. I'm struggling with this. Do you think this would work? Man, I'm either going to answer yes or no, or I'll be there in a second and I'll tell you for sure once I see it.
Let me come by and take a look and I'll let you know.
Yeah, I'll be right there because we all help each other. I don't know how it is in other people's industries, but the AC industry, you know, there's a couple jerks, but for the most part, we build off each other. At least these smaller contractors like me, We build off of each other. I subcontract most of my work from other AC contractors.
Nice. So how'd you meet them? Is that through like the power of networking? Because that's how you and I met.
Right. Well, power of networking, and a couple of them just good luck.
Just good luck is always nice to have.
You know, I ran into the guy I moonlighted for. He owns a small company. And so him and I passed work. Another guy I met through a networking group, and we started talking, and it wasn't even a business networking group. It was something else. And I started talking to him, and what I realized is most of these guys coming out knew how to repair the equipment. That's what they came from.
Right.
I came from doing the sheet metal part. So we have totally different expertise, and we can work with each other.
Absolutely.
And because my expertise is a little more rare as far as, small AC owners, I don't get a tenth of their work, but there's some of their work that they don't want to lose and they don't want to do.
That's fair.
And they'll pay me to do it. And I have 5 or 6 guys like that I have this different thing I'm really good at. And I'll tell you what, there's some things I don't like to do. There's certain units I don't like to work on because I don't feel like I'm the best there is. And I haven't found the right schooling on it yet to really tune it in. So I'll pass a customer and say, hey, no, you need to call this other company.
They just have a better experience with that equipment.
Right. I would rather my customers end up with the best experience, whether it's with me or somebody else, because I'm not going to run out of business.
Yeah. I mean, your name, especially being as a small business owner, is you need to protect that. You need to honor your name, because like as soon as you start telling people stuff that you're going to do and not do it, that all goes downhill.
Right.
Because that word of mouth marketing goes both ways. It can go really great and make you a lot of money and grant you a lot of clientele, or it can shut you out completely.
Right.
Man.
Yeah, and I learned that, just from actually you and I talked about riding motorcycles. I had just a battery cable going from the ground on my battery down to the frame. And one of the ends came off. So I get it all pulled out, and I call the motorcycle shop, and I'm like, hey, do you have one of these? And they're like, well, we can get them, but like it's going to be like $40 or $50. You could go to the battery place, the place that sells just batteries, and take that wire in with you. And remember to tell them to add like 3 or 4 inches, so you have
some room,
and it'll cost you like $12, and they'll build it for you right on site. You'll have it today. You know how many times I've been back to that motorcycle store to buy everything I ever need?
Multiple.
Every time I call him.
Absolutely.
Because he was honest and gave me the best service by not taking my money one time.
It's not taking upfront sales possibilities and leaving money on the table for long-term brand play.
Absolutely.
That's all it is. It was, hey, I'm going to sacrifice this $50 because I don't need to do it for him. He can go get it for $12. Right. Now I've built this amazing relationship, and next time he needs chain linkage, whatever, he's going to come holler at me.
Right.
And that's it. That is the key right there, is providing value like that up front, and it's going to come back to you. Absolutely. Giver's gain, B&I.
Yes, absolutely. The B&I giver's gain, that's their fundamental concept. It's the one thing every religion in the world has in common. What goes around comes around. You reap what you sow. Karma, the golden rule.
Yeah. That
is like the one thing that's universally understood by humans.
At least it's a positive thing that we all understand. You know what I mean?
No doubt.
All right. So what's the future look like for you, Joe?
I'm very open to possibilities. I want to grow. I want to be able to build a good customer base, and I want to be able to build the premium service so that my customers get taken care of the best. I've always had, and I'm not the most talented, but I had a certain period while I was a sheet metal worker that I was doing welding fab and design and building tables that could move and do some of that. I have a real passion for that, catwalks, those sorts of things. So as I get the AC side and I can provide, whatever number of people with a good income that they can take home to their family and be proud of, maybe I can come over here and start doing something that I really enjoy the work. I'm passionate about my people. I'm passionate about my customers and my employees, but I like doing.
Yeah.
I've built catwalks that go on the side of a machine, so they go up and down with the machine. I've built them where they hung off of a roof. I've built them where they stand on the floor. I've built where the combination of
You got a real skill in this.
I really love it. Yeah.
A passion in this.
I genuinely love that.
Where'd that passion come from?
Maybe just the fact that, I mean, as an artist, I cannot draw a stick figure right. Yeah. I can't draw a stick figure right. And I never thought of it as art. I just thought of it as, hey, I get to use my brain to figure this out, and I enjoy that part. And then, believe it or not, my father-in-law was watching me draw out a piece one day, something I was designing. I'd taken a bunch of measurements, and I'm actually drawing it, building the cut sheet and everything like that. And he goes, man, you're an artist. And he did a lot of art in his off time, and that's what he enjoyed. And I said, no, I'm not an artist, man. I'm just designing this so it works right. And
Exactly.
I mean, the art part, I mean, I always think of paint. So I'm like, it's going to be safety yellow. Like, that's not art.
It's not going to be pretty. It's just going to be bright.
Right. And he's like, no, Joe, you don't understand. That's art. What you're designing there, would you take pictures of it when you're done? And he's like, no, that's art. I'm proud of you for that.
Damn. That's like, cool.
Yeah. So, it really ignited a passion. And, I'm not the best welder. You can look up like keywords like weld porn, and their beads are so perfect. It looks like a machine.
The snake belly.
Yes. And that's gorgeous. And I'm not that skilled. But the design portion, I am pretty skilled, and I really enjoy it. And I want to expound on that. And I want to practice that until I'm great.
That, and then get you a welder who can do them pretty snake welds.
Right. And mine aren't bad. So maybe if I spend
just a little bit more time.
Yeah.
That's all it is. That's all it is. It takes 20 hours to, really become competent in something.
Right.
And that you're still going to be ass.
Right.
But you're still at least going to be competent.
You can function.
Exactly. It's not going to be pretty, but it will be done.
And it has crossed my mind that I have two daughters that are amazing artists, and maybe they have that hand control. And I genuinely think, and maybe it's sexist, maybe it's not, that women are better welders.
Interesting. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? I've spent time around welders as a confined space rescue operator.
Right.
Watching them inside of vessels, doing fire watch, stuff like that. I've never come across a female welder. I've come across a whole bunch of old drunken dudes who kind of suck.
Right. So my idea here is, like, I have the daughters that are artists, but that notwithstanding, women have a higher attention to detail, generally. I mean, this is generalization. I realize we're not supposed to do that these days, but fuck them. Women generally have a better attention to detail. That. Yeah. You don't have to if you don't want to.
Clipping that. It's for me.
But, so you're supposed to do this prep work. You're supposed to get this cut just so, because truly the quality of your weld is based on your prep work.
Interesting.
And men will, I know what works. I know what I need to get it done and get it done good enough and make it pass. Women are going to be more likely to take the time to make it right, buy the book right, make it look pretty, make the best decision because their name's going on it. And women in that way are some of the best tradesmen.
Interesting.
And I haven't known a ton of women welders, a few. I grew up, my best friend growing up in high school, his mom was a welder. And I saw some of her work, pictures of her welds, and they were fantastic.
So you need to get them girls a welder in their hand, see what they can do.
I've been trying to get them down to the shop, but, my daughters are now 19, 17, and 16.
Yeah, good luck.
And they are very much living their lives. And when I say living their lives, I don't mean they're particularly social. They have some social events. They're working.
Oh, let's go.
Yeah, they're working at their school, after school. They're volunteering their time, to help build their college book.
Yeah.
My other daughter's working as a security guard at the zoo until she, gets into the art school or whatever, whatever her future is going to hold. But those girls' books are solid. And it's not a bunch of screw around time. It's let's go.
Wow. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so amazing. All three of them are going to go somewhere.
Absolutely.
They're putting in the work. They're putting in the time. And it's about choosing what you do with your time. I can't tell you how many people I've had conversations with. Oh, I don't have time.
Yeah.
Bullshit. Pull your phone out. Let me see what your screen time looks like on that social.
Right.
6 hours a day? 7 hours a day?
Right.
What do you mean you ain't got time? You go to work for 8, sleep for 6 at least.
Right.
You got time in the day to do something. Stop. It's about deciding what you do with your time and them taking the choice to do that. Sacrifice. I'm assuming they probably sacrificed a few social events here and there.
Sure.
And that's not easy to do as a teenager. That takes discipline. It takes willpower, and it takes some grit to do.
Right. Well, I mean, look at it. We're adults, but we are both, fairly social adults. We like the networking side of things. We like doing that. How hard is it for us to miss a social event?
It's
kind of like pulling teeth unless it's a really crummy event we didn't want to go to.
That's it right there. That is it. It depends on the event. It really does for me. Like one of the things I've had to learn lately is the power of saying no.
Right.
Sometimes you just, look, man, I can't right now. Sorry. And, no is a full sentence.
It is.
And I learned that. Shout out to Ashley, my episode 3. She taught me that. And, it's very powerful. You start to grow more. You get more opportunities when you say no. Because all these, hey, you got time for lunch? Hey, you got time for a 15-minute call? No, I don't.
Right.
And it's just choosing.
It is. It's about making your choices and living with them. We're the authors of our own stories generally. I mean, other stuff's going to happen. Life's going to happen around all of us. We're all human. But making our own decisions from there decides what our story looks like.
Right. Yeah, so I'm a gamer. My son's a gamer. And the way that I explain it to other people and to him is we are the main player of this game. You are an NPC, a non-player character. So in my world, I'm the only player. You are just someone I either get a quest from or talk to or decide to just pass.
That's it. Okay.
You know what I mean? It's just a game. All of this shit is a game. It's all made up rules. We're the humans who are making up the rules.
Right.
It's all made up. And as soon as you learn that it's a game and you learn how to play, you can have fun.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah, it
Super
can be a
simple.
blast. And see, I think I like that better. I've always compared it to movies. You're the star of the movie. Mm-hmm. Do you want to be Batman or do you want to be the Joker? Do you want to be Batman or do you want to be some goofy guy on this comedy show?
Yeah.
Whatever. Who do you want to be? It's your movie. Make it.
Yeah, I see. And I go the game route. It's just you're an RPG. You make your own story. You make your own character. And you make your own decisions. If you want to fuck around and find out, you're gonna.
Right.
And there's a lot of power in once you understand that it's your choice.
Right.
And a lot of people need to learn it. And I'm really trying to drill it into that kid. Good Lord. All right, Joe. We're coming up on, dude, this is an hour. This is my longest one.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we didn't get into a lot of the stuff that I wanted to, but we're going to save that for part 2. As we come to a close here, I have an anchor question that I've been asking everybody. All right, you ready, Joe?
Sure.
Joe, you get up in the morning, getting ready for work. You got your coffee, about to leave the house. Go to leave the house, you see 18-year-old Joe standing outside. You get a moment to exchange words with him. You cannot tell him all the secrets, but you can give him a piece of advice. What do you tell him?
Build your relationships.
Yeah.
Hold on to them. Build them. They're going to make your life everything that it is. That's what I'd tell him.
That's good. I fucking love that. Joe, this has been amazing for Trades Day, baby.
Man, thank you
I
so
love
much.
it, brother. Thank you so much for coming. We will have a part 2 soon. There's no way we cannot, because we didn't even get to talk about motorcycles or anything. We didn't get to talk about a whole bunch of other stuff. So I'll have to have you come back out soon. About 6 months, I want to see where you're at, man. I want to see what your goals are, what you've achieved, what you're doing then, if you're starting to work on some of your catwalks and stuff. I cannot wait. Other than that, it's been another episode of Networking with Nick. Get out, shake hands, meet people.